I'm Frank Conkle, Editor-in-Chief at GovExec, coming to you live from Las Vegas at Google Next. With me today I have Derek Law. He's Lieutenant Colonel in the U.S. Space Force. Derek, thanks for being with us. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hi Frank, thanks for having me. It's an exciting time for me right now because I'm entering my skills bridge time in the military. So I'm transitioning into civilian workforce and using the time to get some cloud certifications with Allegiant vets. And then I can use those certifications to get employment with industry. And so I'm here today in my personal capacity. So the statements I make today are my personal views and don't reflect those of the Department of Defense, Department of Air Force, or the United States Space Force.
So we're talking today about emerging technology. This conference is all about AI, agentic AI, cloud computing, all that sort of stuff, which are big topics for the U.S. government right now and the Defense Department and Space Force. So tell me a little bit about how some of those technologies are being incorporated in Space Force now.
Well, so with space weather data, Space Force is analyzing troves of space weather data from NASA. They're using Vertex AI and Google's high-performance computing environment, and they can now analyze up to 70,000 images per day. And so that is giving us ability to forecast days in advance versus just minutes in advance with traditional methods.
So for a layperson, explain to them why it's important that the Space Force can forecast space weather.
So it gives us the ability to be more robust. If we can be proactive and make maneuvers ahead of time, such as tilting solar panels, closing shutters to protect sensitive electronics, and or even go into safe mode, then our equipment will last longer, and that extends the lifespan of satellites and also our communication systems.
Now, how about cloud computing? That's a bit of a ubiquitous term these days. The government's been at the forefront of it for probably around a decade or so, but it's becoming more important to the Defense Department as some of these big cloud providers like Google, like Amazon, et cetera, get their cloud secure enough to be used by the Defense Department and used in different settings. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, the cloud environments provide resilience, scalability, and security. And the cloud providers always have the latest and greatest technology, whereas in government, it sometimes takes a long time to procure and recapitalize our equipment.
What is the general procurement time for cloud computing now compared to where it might have been 5, even 10 years ago? I feel like sometimes it used to take years to get this kind of stuff. You guys can deploy virtual machines a lot more quickly now.
That's right. Yeah, it's because the contractual mechanisms are there now. They're well known, and a lot of the developers are now developing organically in the cloud rather than having to migrate systems there, although we do have a lot of legacy systems we still need to migrate.
Yeah. Now, so far at this conference, I have been to about half a dozen panels. Every one of them has talked about AI in some way, shape, or form. I want you to just talk about, over the course of your career, how AI has evolved and kind of where we are now in the Defense Department and Space Force with that technology.
Well, AI is being used, like I mentioned, in the space weather detection and prediction, but also in simple large language models like NIPR GPT. So that's available on an IL-4 environment, and it's giving us the ability to, like, we can write reports, we can write briefings using it, but what we need to do is take it to the next level. We need to use it for dynamic space operations. And then we can also automate some of our more routine space operations functions.
Okay, so Derek, you were mentioning the NIPR option. Talk a little bit about that program.
So a NIPR is basically our network for controlled unclassified information. And there's now an AI tool, a large language model. It's a NIPR GPT, and it's based on Google's Gemini model.
So large language model is kind of the same sort of generative AI technology that we're seeing in the commercial side. We're starting to get to the point where we can bring some of that behind the DoD walls.
Exactly.
A little bit.
Exactly.
What would the next level of this look like? Like, let's fast forward a year or two. Let's say we can keep pace where our commercial sector is now. What might it look like, and what kind of use cases could you foresee potentially among users in the Defense Department and Space Force?
Yeah, we'd use this at higher and higher classifications. We'd use it in operations. We'd use it for dynamic space operations. That's keeping satellites continuously moving. and could also use it for routine automated functions.
Now, we're at a tech conference. We hear a lot of people talking about the future. What are some of the future uses of these technologies you might see farther down the line? Are we going to have a more autonomous operating Defense Department? And what does that mean for folks like you who work in those departments? Do we have to all become technologists? What will that look like?
Absolutely, I think we should. I think everybody, and we've been charged with it, the Space Force and the charged with becoming more digitally fluent, and we need to take it to the next level, become more AI fluent. Even that means learning how to write prompts. That's something that every workforce would appreciate.
Yeah. How difficult has that been for you? I mean, you're more of a tech guy, but has it been a challenge to make use of some of these technologies as they've come in, and what's that been like? Do they offer trainings? How does it work?
There are limited trainings, but it's also hard to encourage other people to do it. Change is hard.
Yeah.
And so you really got to force this on people. You got to demonstrate, you've got to use it yourself and show them the benefits.
Do you find that some of the old guard folks are kind of resistant to it?
Oh, absolutely.
But have you seen examples where those folks come in, they sit through a training, and then they're actually able to do their jobs more effectively, or not?
Oh yeah, it takes a while and you have to have patience, but eventually they'll learn to appreciate it.
Now the Space Force has been making some news lately talking about weapons in space, so I'm curious about what some of those changes look like in Space Operations Command and what trainings and systems are needed to prepare Guardians for the future of space in that regard.
Well, space is a very competitive environment, and I mentioned earlier about dynamic space operations. Well, that's key to remaining flexible in space, remaining and maintaining space superiority. And so operators need to be able to learn it, utilize it, and lead. They need to be able to be the leaders in it.
So zero trust architecture is another thing that's been really paramount across not just the Defense Department, but also the federal government, state and local governments on down. How does Space Force view cybersecurity right now?
Yeah, zero trust architectures is the way to go. It's protecting the data, and that's key. And so that means that not anybody can access that network, and even if they could, it doesn't matter because the data is protected. So that's the importance of zero trust architectures.
Now, in the old days, it seemed like the defense satellite uses, they were all built by the Defense Department, custom. Now we're seeing a huge amount of usage of commercial satellites. Maybe just talk a little bit about how that dovetails in with the space strategy that you guys have at Space Force.
That's right, yeah, the commercial space strategy is basically mandating that we integrate with commercial innovation because we know that that's the best way to be resilient, secure, and scalable. Cloud technologies, zero trust environments, containerization, this is the way to make our systems more interoperable and more resilient.
Now, Derek, we've heard a lot of folks talk about what the next generation of Guardians should look like, what they should bring to the table. And conferences like this, it's fun to meet young people that are interested in Space Force. A lot of them have tech backgrounds. What do you think ought to happen on that front? Should we be looking at more of those types of acumens coming into the Defense Department?
Absolutely. Yeah, we definitely need that field, those people with the expertise and the passion and the drive for it.
Lieutenant Colonel Derek Law, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate your time.